Our next speaker for sure could win the award for the longest title for a talk that is printed in the program. And I just asked him, what are you actually going to talk about? And he says, like, we'll talk about trust. So very welcome on stage, Nicolas. We will be hearing a lot about trust now. And I'm really interested in finding out why we had such a long title when it's such a short title.
Yeah,
Trust.
we'll see that.
The stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Yeah, actually, the title of the presentation was a bit long, so I decided to reduce that to a bare minimum. We'll talk about trust. First of all, I need to apologize. I'm coming from France, so sorry for the funny accent, maybe. So I have the French agenda, extremely strict and formal, you know. We'll discuss about trust, of course, but risk, security, well, risk management, all that funny stuff. Now, let's start with a definition. What is trust, really? Actually, it can be defined, well, it is defined by Wikipedia. I like this definition quite a lot. It's defined by the willingness to accept a vulnerability based upon optimistic belief on others' intentions. Well, yeah. Telling this to security-minded people, well, you can say that we are having trust issues somewhere, because we are not really willingness to accept any vulnerability, especially online. We are not really optimistic about others' intention, generally speaking, especially online. So let's discuss about trust a little bit more. If trust was a Facebook friend, what would she or he like or dislike? He or she would like authenticity, things that are predictable, things that are known already, and, well, security. They like this. Trust wouldn't like fraud, surprises, unknown things, and risk. Well, needless to say that if trust was a real friend, it could be quite a boring one. But in any case, what we see is that fraud is a big concern when you have to have trust in others. So let's discuss about fraud. These numbers are coming from Europe, so it might not exactly apply to the German market, but the trend is pretty much the same. What we see is that we are having an increase of fraud, which is not 1% increase per year, but it's plus almost 100% for next year that is forecasted. So we're talking about a real decent number of victims of fraud. What is interesting is how that fraud is discovered. That fraud is discovered in many cases. First, with a state organization, 6% of the cases. I mean, regular police has investigation, and during that investigation, they flag that you've been victim of fraud, and then you receive that call. In 2% of the cases, the fraud is discovered when you use your credit card to purchase something in a shop or online, and then your card is declined. And then you just wonder why. It's just because maybe you purchased a Ferrari or you've been victim of a fraud. In 25% of the cases, the bank, your bank, calls you to inform you that you've been victim of an online fraud, for example. And in 67% of the cases, you discover the fraud alone in your home, opening the statement, the monthly statement. Well, in 67% of the cases, then, the fraud was under the radar, not discovered at all. And what is the vector of that typical fraud? 34% of the cases, compromission of e-commerce channel. 17% of the cases, well, this is compromission on physical shop database, for example, or a user in the shop that just copy data information, card information, sorry. 12% of the cases, big surprise, because this is kind of new in Europe, skimming attacks. I don't know if you know that term, skimming. It's just a technique that allows attackers to create a fake ATM. So you slip your card in a fake ATM, you give your PIN, then the card is kept by the ATM, and there you go. 7% of the cases, regular phishing attacks. You know, the kind of emails you receive every day on your mailbox. 4%, last one, this is the kind of exploit that you see everywhere in the breaking news, staple target database hacks. This represents only 4% of the fraud. So now, what is the typical amount of a fraud? Maybe you would say instinctively that it could be a high amount of money. No, it's not. It's a very regular amount of money, like 300 euros max, just to keep under the radars. Keep in mind that bad guys, they're just bad, not stupid. They don't want to end up in the breaking news. They just want to get rich on your back. Now, when you've been victim of a fraud, what happened? 4% out of 10, they will officially report that fraud. Out of these 4 persons, 3 of them will be refunded by the bank. Or the last one is for corporation. There is no protection, not the same protection for corporation than for physical people. So usually, companies, they are liable for any fraud. Besides that, what we can say is that there is a huge increase of intensity of the fraud. And if you put that in perspective with the usage of your typical banking operation, this is a typical interaction for a customer, you will see that most of the cases, or most of the people will use more and more mobile, which is good, because we have mobiles everywhere. I still have mine here. So maybe the numbers do not apply completely, but the trend is there. So basically, mobile will be, well, the epicenter of all hopes for the banking. But there is risk associated with that. So it's also an epicenter of all fears. So let's play a game. Well, you don't raise hands, just keep that in your mind. So according to you, what's the number of attacks that focus on application layer on mobile phones? Yeah, pretty much 80%. 80% of attackers will focus on your application on your mobile phone, mobile banking application or any kind of application. Why? Because, again, they are not stupid. They just want to get rich. It's the easiest way to hack. What is the percentage of the application that we test that contains vulnerabilities? Well, that's a whooming 95% and counting. Well, if I need to be very honest, it's 99%, sort of. And what's the percentage of mobile malware, so external application, that tackles financial information on your device? This is something around 60%. So if we keep that in mind, we have a scenario where people will more and more use their mobile device to do more and more financial transactions, pure banking or payments and so on a platform that can be at risk. And this is confirmed by the overall financial industry market trends. So the financial industry wants you to have frictionless authentication, security that you don't see. They've seen that since the last 10 years, 5 years, they created a mobile channel. Then it was mobile first. People that would prefer to use mobile as a channel to interact with the bank. And now there is a new kind of concept, which is mobile only. People that just interact with the bank using their mobile. And this is pretty much what we will see in the next couple of years. That's the reason why we specifically focus on mobile security. So what do we do? What is our solution for our trust issue? Well, we built our solution based on 5 pillars that will interact all together to bring a trust chain. So starting from who you are to what you do, we'll create first a trust user. So this is pretty much what is done when you want to create an account. So it's called onboarding. So ID verification, ID check, proving that you are, legally speaking, the good person. Then you need to convey that trust with devices or software. This is called multifactor authentication. So basically, anytime you will need to log into your bank or to your service, you will authenticate yourself with that kind of system. If you use a mobile device, which is very likely to happen, then we need to do two different things. We need to add trust in the device and to add trust in the application itself. We'll see a little bit later how we do that. After that, you've been authenticated to your service, and then you need to authenticate also your actions or intentions. Because, well, it's not because you entered a website that the transaction of $1 million to buy a Ferrari in another country is legit. So basically, trust channel, you need to sign documents. You need to have trust in that signature as well. And at the end of the day, this is not just a login that we will trust. This is not a guy. We'll trust the global behavior of all that ecosystem. One person interacting with many devices on many different services. So let's start a little bit to discuss about that. Multifactor authentication. So we do provide hardware in VASCO, hardware and software authenticators. I'll be very fast on the hardware side. It's just things like that that display typical OTP, one-time password, that allows you to log into your bank, to your favorite game, favorite social network, and so on and so on. We also have this authenticator on software. So then we bring a lot more convenience. We can scan QR code to log in. It can be transparent login. We use biometric factors, so the typical Touch ID or fingerprint sensors that you can use to get logged in your websites or applications. We use also face recognition. It's a brand new addition. It's pretty cool. We use mitigation factors. Let's be a little bit techie in there. An OTP is something that is a dynamic password. That dynamic password or dynamic signature proves that you are the legit guy on the legit device. And in that code, we can inject all the scoring on the device, on your iPhone, on your mobile phone. So the scoring will consist trying to detect if there is a jailbreak, rootkit, malware on the device. We inject all this information in the authentication and send back to the server. If the authentication goes well, then you extract the score and you can mitigate a little bit more what's happening. This is how we do face recognition. It's one-on-one face recognition. It means that we will not be able to snap a photo out of a crowd here, for example, and say, hey, this is Bert, this is Tom. No, we will just be sure that this is the good guy that is trying to authenticate. So we keep in mind privacy issues. We provide that under a pure client or client-server approach. I won't go into the details. If you want to have more details, I can be quite chit-chat around that. Please come on our booths. The second pillar that I would like to mention is mobile application security, which targets actually something quite interesting, code injection. What is the trust you can put in the application that runs on your device? Well, it depends. It depends really. If code, external code, malware, can be injected in your application as you use it, well, maybe that will be quite an issue. And this is a scenario that I would like to present here. Typical scenario. I'm a user. I would like to go opening an account to a bank. So I do that. And as soon as I can propose or present an ID, real one or fake one, this is OK, I will open the account. Problem is that I might be a bad guy. And home, I have computers, wires, phones, and I know how to connect them together. So I will have usually my mobile banking credentials. I can create my mobile banking account and codes. I receive for that an activation code or registration code from my bank. And I run this activation while I'm plugged in with the computer, which is called reverse engineering process. So during that reverse engineering process, I will add a keylogger. I will extract information, a data extractor. I will remove all the security mechanism that I can find. And then If I'm successful, I will repackage, recompile the application. Now, next step. I need to redistribute that application using a very, very well-known technique. I mean, phishing emails, fake website, companion application. There are many, many ways to distribute rogue application. The goal is that many users will use my rogue application so that anytime they use the application, I get every input, I get everything they do in a command and control center, where you figure out the rest. Usually, I get rich at the end of the day. We provide a lot of tools to do so. See that I'm running out of time, so I'll be a bit faster than expected. So this is what we provide as for mobile application security. The last point is handling the global risk management around that ecosystem. We do that through an analytics server that uses expert rules combined with machine learning capacities. It helps organizations to meet either compliance with regulation or to monitor and to be more efficient with their online fraud management. If you have any question on all of these or details that you want to have, well, you can come and meet us all 6 at the stand G43 to VASCO. Thank you very much for your attention.